Poor boy rejects money from a millionaire. What he asked for made the millionaire fall into tears. Ethan sat at the edge of the playground, his small frame hunched over, as he watched the other kids laughing and playing. At 12, he should have been carefree like them, but the weight of the world rested heavily on his shoulders. After the sudden passing of his father, the bright sparks of joy had dimmed in his life. He felt the responsibilities of adulthood creeping in too early, as he often helped his mother, Sarah, with odd jobs around their small home, and cared for his younger sister, Lily, who was oblivious to the family's struggles. "Ethan, come play!" called out a friend, waving enthusiastically. Ethan forced a smile, but his heart wasn't in it. He stood up and took a few steps toward them, but the laughter felt distant, like a melody he could no longer hear. Instead, he turned back to watch Lily swing, her giggles piercing through his somber thoughts. "Look at me, Ethan!" she shouted, her small hands gripping the chains of the swing. Her innocence was a stark contrast to the burden he carried. He approached her, pushing the swing gently. "Higher, higher," she squealed, and for a moment, Ethan felt a flicker of happiness. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the playground, Ethan's mind drifted back to the conversations he had overheard between his mother and their neighbor, Mrs. Thompson. He remembered the worry etched on Sarah's face as she spoke in hushed tones about bills and groceries. "I don't know how we're going to make it through the month," she had said, her voice trembling. "Everything feels so overwhelming without him." Ethan felt a tightening in his chest. He wished he could do more to help, but at times it felt like he was fighting a losing battle. He took a deep breath and turned to Lily, who was still swinging, her laughter ringing sweetly in the air. "Let's head home, Lil," he said gently. "Mom will be waiting for us." As they walked home, Ethan's thoughts were interrupted by the sight of a sleek car parked in front of the community center. He recognized it immediately, the town's local millionaire, William Hayes. He had heard stories about William's generosity, how he donated large sums of money to community projects and was known for his philanthropic efforts. Ethan had never spoken to him, but he often fantasized about what it would be like to meet someone who could help solve their problems. "Ethan, do you think he'll help us?" Lily asked innocently, looking up at her brother with wide eyes. Ethan shrugged, not wanting to get her hopes up. "I don't know, Lily. But it doesn't hurt to dream, right?" That afternoon, as Ethan ran an errand for his mother to the local store, he spotted William standing outside the community center, talking to a group of townsfolk. The man was tall, with a warm smile and an air of confidence that drew people to him. Ethan felt an urge to approach him, to somehow convey the struggles his family faced. But as he watched from a distance, doubt crept in. What would he say? Would William even care? Just then, William looked over and caught Ethan's gaze. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Ethan felt a strange spark of curiosity. He could see kindness in William's eyes, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of hope. "Hey there, kid. You need something?" William called out, his voice booming yet inviting. Ethan's heart raced as he stepped forward, unsure of how to respond. I, no, sir. Just running an errand," Ethan stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. William nodded, his expression shifting to one of understanding. "You look like you've got a lot on your mind. If you ever want to talk, I'm around," he said, extending an invitation that felt monumental to Ethan. "I might take you up on that," Ethan replied, surprising himself with his honesty. He felt a warmth spreading through him, igniting a small flame of courage. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way to share their struggles and find support. As he walked away, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was only the beginning. The weight of his family's struggles loomed large, but for the first time, he felt that he might not have to bear it alone. As the sun rose over the small town, Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety bubbling within him. He had heard from his friends at school that William, the wealthy philanthropist, would be at the community center today, and he was determined to make his presence known. Clutching a worn backpack that had seen better days, He took a deep breath and headed toward the center, his heart racing with every step. When Ethan arrived, the community center buzzed with activity. Local families gathered in clusters, their laughter echoing off the walls. Colorful banners hung from the ceiling, announcing the event. William was at the center of it all, his warm smile and kind demeanor drawing people in like moths to a flame. Ethan stood at a distance, observing how William interacted with the townsfolk. He watched as William shook hands, offered hugs, and exchanged words of encouragement, each gesture radiating generosity. "Look at him," one of Ethan's friends whispered, nudging him in the ribs. "He's like a celebrity. I can't believe he's really here." Ethan nodded, his stomach fluttering with a mix of admiration and fear. Everyone around him seemed so confident, so assured. He felt small in comparison, his worries weighing heavily on his shoulders. After a few moments, he decided it was now or never. He took a deep breath, brushed off his jeans, and made his way toward the crowd. As he approached William, Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He waited for a moment, watching the man laugh with a mother holding a toddler. Finally, he gathered enough courage to speak up. "Excuse me, Mr. William?" His voice was shaky, and he felt his cheeks flush. William turned, his eyes sparkling with kindness. "Hello there. What's your name, young man?" "Ethan," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to talk to you." "Of course, Ethan. What's on your mind?" William knelt down to meet Ethan's gaze, his attention unwavering. Ethan fidgeted with the strap of his backpack, trying to find the right words. "My family, we're having a hard time. Since my dad passed away?" His voice faltered, and he hesitated, the weight of his struggles threatening to overwhelm him. William's expression softened. "I'm so sorry to hear that. It must be tough for you and your family. How can I help?" Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the pressure of the moment. "I hear you help people. My mom is worried about money, and I thought maybe you could help us too." The words tumbled out, almost a plea. "I'd love to help, Ethan. What do you need?" William's voice was steady, filled with genuine concern. Ethan looked down, grappling with the thought of accepting charity. "I don't know. Money would help, but—" He paused, searching for the right way to express his heart's desire. "What I really want is to spend a day under the tree, my dad's favorite tree, just a day to remember him." William blinked in surprise, his brow furrowing slightly. "The tree? Tell me more about it." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him as he spoke about the grand oak tree that stood at the edge of the park. "It's huge, with branches that stretch out like arms. My dad used to take me there to play, to talk, to just be together. It's a special place for me." William listened intently, his eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "So you want to spend a day there instead of receiving money?" Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of clarity wash over him. "Yeah, I just want to feel close to him again." A thoughtful silence passed between them, and for a moment, the noise of the community center faded into the background. William's heart stirred as he realized the depth of Ethan's request. "You know, Ethan, I think that's a beautiful idea," he said finally, a smile breaking through his contemplative expression. "Let's make that happen." Ethan's face lit up with a mix of surprise and gratitude. "Really? You mean it?" "Absolutely. I'd be honored to spend that day with you," William replied, feeling a profound connection forming between them. "Let's plan for it. How about this weekend?" As they talked about the details, Ethan felt a weight lift off his shoulders. In that moment, he realized that sometimes the simplest requests held the most profound meanings, and perhaps this unexpected friendship with William was just the beginning of something beautiful. William leaned against the wooden railing of the community center's porch, his gaze fixed on Ethan. The boy's eyes sparkled with a mix of hope and trepidation as he shared the story of his father, who had passed away just months before. The air was thick with anticipation, and the townsfolk, gathered nearby, watched intently, expecting a typical interaction between a wealthy benefactor and a struggling child. After Dad died, things got really tough for us, Ethan admitted, his voice trembling slightly. Mom is working all the time, and I try to help as much as I can, but it's hard. He paused, taking a deep breath as he gathered his thoughts. There's this tree in our backyard, the one Dad used to sit under. He told me stories about it when I was little. It's like a piece of him is still there, you know? William nodded, visibly moved. I can't imagine how hard that must be for you, Ethan. I'm here to help. Whatever you need, I promise. I can make it happen. His voice was warm, filled with sincerity, and the crowd murmured in agreement, their expressions sympathetic. Ethan shifted his weight from one foot to the other, his heart pounding in his chest. Thank you, Mr. Williams, but I don't want money. I just want to spend a day under that tree. The silence that followed was palpable, and a few gasps erupted from the onlookers, their expectations shattered. Are you sure? William asked, slightly taken aback by the boy's unexpected request. I can help your family in so many ways. A little money could go a long way. Ethan shook his head, determination etched on his young face. It's not about the money. I just want to remember my dad. I want to feel close to him again, even if just for a little while. His gaze drifted towards the ground, as if the enormity of his request suddenly overwhelmed him. The townsfolk exchanged glances, some nodding in understanding, while others looked confused. William felt a wave of admiration wash over him. This young boy, standing before him, was embodying a profound sense of clarity and purpose that was often lost in the adult world. You're asking for something that many people overlook, time and memories, he finally said, his voice softening. I would be honored to spend that day with you, Ethan. A smile broke across Ethan's face, a mixture of relief and joy. Really? You mean it? He exclaimed, his excitement bubbling to the surface. Yes, I mean it. Let's make it a day to remember, William replied, his heart swelling with emotion. The crowd around them began to disperse, some muttering to one another about the unusual turn of events. Thank you, Mr. Williams, Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. You have no idea what this means to me. As they stood together, the weight of their circumstances hung in the air, but amidst it all, an unspoken bond began to form. William felt a sense of purpose rekindled within him. He had spent so long focused on his wealth and philanthropy, but here was a boy who reminded him of the true essence of life, connection, memories, and the importance of cherishing those we have lost. Let's plan for this weekend, then, William suggested, a smile spreading across his face. I'll bring some snacks, and we can share stories about your dad. I'd love to hear more about him. Ethan's eyes lit up. That would be great. He loved telling stories. I think you'd have a lot of fun. I'm sure I will, William replied, his heart feeling lighter. And who knows? Maybe I'll have a story or two to share with you as well. As they parted ways, Ethan felt a newfound sense of hope. The weight that had been pressing down on him for months began to lift. For the first time since his father's passing, he felt as if he wouldn't just survive the days ahead, but truly live them. William, too, walked away with a renewed sense of purpose, grateful for the unexpected path this encounter had taken him. The bond between them was about to blossom into something neither could have predicted, changing both of their lives in ways they had yet to understand. William stood there, momentarily speechless, as Ethan's request hung in the air like a delicate whisper. The vibrant greens of the leaves above flickered in the gentle breeze, casting playful shadows on the ground. His heart, usually so guarded against emotional vulnerability, opened slightly at the boy's candidness. A day under a tree? He echoed, his voice colored with disbelief and curiosity. Your father's favorite tree? Ethan nodded solemnly, the weight of nostalgia etched on his youthful face. It was where he used to tell me stories, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. It's special to me. I just want to remember him, to feel close to him for a little while. William felt a swell of emotion, a pang of sadness mixed with admiration for the boy's resilience. "I would be honored to spend that day with you, Ethan," he finally replied, his voice steadying. "Tell me when and where, and I'll be there." A smile broke across Ethan's face, a light that momentarily dispelled the shadows of his recent grief. "Tomorrow," he said, excitement creeping into his tone. "At noon, it's not far from my house. You'll see it's a big oak tree, the biggest one in the park." "Tomorrow at noon it is," William confirmed, a sense of anticipation tinged with solemnity settling over him. As he watched Ethan walk away, he couldn't help but reflect on the boy's unique perspective on life, one that seemed to prioritize meaningful connections over material wealth. The following day arrived with a brilliant sun hanging in a clear blue sky. William parked his car at the edge of the park, a sense of nervous excitement bubbling within him. As he walked toward the oak tree, he recalled the stories he had heard about Ethan's father, a man who had dedicated his life to his family and community, someone William now wished he had known. When William reached the tree, he found Ethan already sitting at its base, a thoughtful expression on his face. The boy looked up, and his face lit up at the sight of William approaching. "You came!" he exclaimed, his voice brightening the space around them. "Of course," William replied, settling down beside him. "This is a beautiful spot. I can see why it means so much to you." Ethan leaned back against the rough bark, closing his eyes for a moment as he took a deep breath. "It smells like him," he said, a hint of melancholy in his voice. "He used to sit here with me and tell me about his childhood. He loved sharing stories." "Stories are powerful," William mused, looking out over the park. He felt the weight of his own childhood memories creeping into his thoughts. "They shape who we are, don't they?" "Yeah," Ethan said, opening his eyes. "What about you? Did your dad tell you stories?" William sighed, a shadow crossing his face. "I didn't know my father very well. He left when I was young. My mother raised me by herself, working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. There were times I wished I could have had moments like this, times to just be together and share." Ethan turned to him, his eyes wide with empathy. "I'm sorry, Mr. William. That must have been hard." William chuckled softly. "It was, but I learned a lot from her strength. And now, sitting here with you, I see how much those moments matter. Your father did a great job raising you." "Thanks," Ethan replied, a shy smile creeping onto his face. "I miss him so much. Sometimes I just wish I could talk to him again, even just for a moment." As they spoke, the sun began its slow descent, casting a warm glow over the park. William and Ethan shared stories, laughter, and moments of comfortable silence, the bond between them deepening with each passing minute. They were two souls connected by loss, yet finding solace in each other's company. It was a day that transcended wealth or poverty, a day that reminded William of what truly mattered in life: love, connection, and the memories that linger long after someone is gone. "I think this is the best day I've had in a long time," Ethan said finally, his voice bright with sincerity. William nodded, his heart swelling with a mix of gratitude and realization. "Me too, Ethan. Thank you for inviting me here. It's a day I won't forget." As they sat there, the oak tree stood tall and firm, a silent witness to the healing power of shared experiences. In that moment, both men understood that while they came from different worlds, their hearts beat in synchrony, each finding a piece of themselves in the other. As the weeks rolled on, an unexpected yet profound friendship blossomed between Ethan and William. Their meetings became a cherished part of both their lives, each encounter filled with laughter, shared stories, and the kind of memories that would last a lifetime. Their bond was rooted in something deeper than mere circumstance. It was a connection forged through understanding and shared experiences. One sunny afternoon, they found themselves sitting on the grass beneath Ethan's father's favorite tree, the leaves creating a dappled pattern of light and shadow on their faces. Ethan leaned back against the sturdy trunk, a smile spreading across his face as he recounted a story about his father teaching him how to climb. "I remember it like it was yesterday," Ethan said, his eyes sparkling with nostalgia. He said, Son, every branch is a new adventure waiting to happen. William chuckled, picturing the young boy with wide eyes and scraped knees. Your dad sounds like he had a great sense of adventure. Did you ever climb it all the way to the top? Ethan shook his head, a hint of mischief in his expression. Not quite. I got scared halfway up and came back down, but I think he was proud that I tried. Sometimes just trying is the bravest thing we can do, William replied thoughtfully. The words hung in the air, both of them reflecting on their personal journeys. Meanwhile, back at home, Sarah noticed the changes in Ethan's demeanor. The weight he had been carrying seemed lighter, and a newfound vibrancy filled his interactions with her and Lily. One evening, as they prepared dinner together, she watched him dance around the kitchen, laughing with his sister as they set the table. "Ethan, you've been so cheerful lately. What's going on?" she asked, curiosity piqued. He paused, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "I've been spending time with Mr. William. He's really great, Mom. He listens and shares stories, and I feel like he understands." A smile broke across Sarah's face, a mixture of relief and gratitude washing over her. "I'm glad, sweetheart. It sounds like he's been a good friend to you." "Yeah, he has, and he's helping me see things differently. I feel hopeful." As the community began to rally around their little family, word spread about the bond between the boy and the wealthy philanthropist. People started reaching out, offering support in various forms, whether it was food, clothes, or just friendly visits. Sarah felt a sense of community she hadn't realized they were missing. One day, as Ethan and William strolled through town, they stumbled upon a local park that had fallen into disrepair. The playground equipment was rusted, the grass was overgrown, and the benches were cracked and splintered. Ethan's brow furrowed in disappointment as he gazed at the forgotten space. "Look at this place, William," he said, his voice heavy with sadness. "It used to be so vibrant. Kids would laugh and play here. Now it feels neglected." William surveyed the area, his mind racing with ideas. "You know, we could do something about it. What if we organized a community project to restore it? We could bring everyone together, get them involved again." Ethan's eyes widened with excitement. "That's a fantastic idea. We could paint the benches, fix the swings, and plant flowers. Everyone could pitch in." "Let's do it," William said, his determination evident. "We can start by talking to the community center. I'm sure they'd want to help." The next day, they presented their idea to the townsfolk during a community meeting. Ethan stood up, a mixture of nerves and enthusiasm coursing through him. "This park used to be a place where we all gathered, where friends played and families celebrated. We can bring it back." William stood beside him, nodding in agreement. "Together, we can restore not just the park, but the spirit of our community. It will take effort, but the rewards will be immeasurable." The room buzzed with excitement as people began to volunteer their time and resources. Families rallied together, bringing tools, paint, and food for a community barbecue to celebrate the park's reopening. Days turned into weeks as the park transformed under their collective hands. Laughter filled the air, and the scent of fresh paint mingled with blooming flowers. The project united the town, rekindling friendships and creating new connections. Through it all, Ethan and William stood side by side, their bond deepening with every shared moment. They had discovered that true wealth was not measured in money, but in the love, support, and laughter that filled their lives, a realization that would continue to guide them on their journeys. As the sun rose over the newly restored park, the air buzzed with excitement and laughter. Families gathered, children ran through the grass, and the scent of freshly baked goods wafted from stalls set up along the paths. William stood at the center of it all, his heart swelling with pride at the sight of the community coming together. Yet, beneath the surface, a knot of anxiety twisted in his stomach. He had just received a message that his estranged brother, Michael, was in town and wanted to reconnect. The prospect of facing his brother after years of silence was daunting. "Hey, you all right?" Ethan's voice cut through his thoughts. The boy's bright eyes were filled with concern, his hands stained with paint from helping to finish the park's murals. Yeah, just thinking about my brother, William replied, forcing a smile. It's been a while since we've spoken. Ethan nodded knowingly. You should talk to him, Mr. William. You've helped me face my fears. Maybe it's time to face yours. William glanced down at the boy, impressed by his wisdom. You're right, but what if he doesn't want to see me? What if it's too late? Ethan shrugged, determination etched on his face. It's never too late. You've done so much good for others. Maybe it's time to do good for yourself, too. Encouraged by Ethan's words, William took a deep breath. All right, let's do this. They walked towards the edge of the park where a large oak tree stood, reminiscent of the one where they had spent so many meaningful hours together. As they approached the tree, William spotted a familiar figure in the distance. Michael. His brother looked older, a bit weathered, yet there was a flicker of recognition in his eyes. William's heart raced. Ethan, I think that's him, William whispered, his voice barely audible. Go on, I'll be right here, Ethan encouraged, giving him a gentle push forward. With each step, memories of their childhood flooded William's mind. Laughter, arguments, shared dreams. He reached the base of the tree where Michael was standing, fidgeting nervously. Michael, William called out, his voice filled with cautious hope. Michael turned, his expression a mix of surprise and uncertainty. William, I didn't think you'd come. Neither did I, William admitted, his heart pounding. But I'm glad you're here. Can we talk? The two brothers stood in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Finally, Michael nodded. Yeah, I'd like that. Ethan, watching from a distance, felt a swell of emotion as he observed the two men beneath the sprawling branches of the tree. The laughter from the park faded into the background, replaced by the quiet intensity of the moment. I saw what you've done with the park, Michael said, breaking the silence. It looks amazing. You always had a way with people. William chuckled, though it was tinged with sadness. I couldn't have done it without the support of the community, and Ethan. Michael's eyes shifted to the boy, who was now playing with a group of children nearby. He's a good kid. I've heard about your friendship. It's nice to see you doing good. William nodded, the pride in his voice evident. He's taught me a lot about what really matters in life. Family, connection. It's all so important. As they spoke, the words began to flow, the years of hurt and misunderstanding slowly unraveling. Each confession, each shared memory, chipped away at the walls they had built around their hearts. Remember when we used to climb trees and pretend we were explorers? Michael asked, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. William smiled, the memory brightening his expression. Yeah, and we always got in trouble for it. Mom was furious when she found out we broke the branch. Michael laughed, a sound William had missed. She was so mad, but she couldn't stay angry for long. As the laughter echoed, Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. He stepped closer, sensing that the moment was pivotal. Hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's good to see you both smiling, Ethan said, his voice steady. Family is everything, right? William and Michael exchanged glances, their hearts full. Yeah, it is, Michael replied, his voice softer now. I've missed this. Under the shelter of the old oak tree, the two brothers embraced, the weight of their past slipping away like leaves in the wind. They stood together, a family reunited, while Ethan watched, feeling a sense of fulfillment wash over him. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and love, they all understood that true wealth lay not in riches, but in the connections they forged with one another.